Thanks for that wonderful introduction. It really is my pleasure to be here to kind of talk to you guys, because it wasn't that long ago when I was, in your shoes, when I was sitting here at TVMSC, kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do afterwards. Which grade am I talking to right now? Like how?
10th, 11th, 12th cohort students.
Oh wow, excellent. Yeah, so you guys are kind of getting ready to go on to this step. So I don't know, maybe you guys can get something out of my presentation. So I'm just going to try and tell you some of the things I've learned. So as Holly said, I was here at TVMSC, I think from the very beginning, so the very first year. And it was really exciting to kind of be a part of this program, because this is really actually a phenomenal program. Math and science, it's one of those things that's going to, bring our society forward. It's the thing that's going to save our civilization from all the messed up stuff that's going on. So in order for a center like this to be in existence, to really emphasize that message and really try and give you guys the best opportunity, try and gear you guys up for the world ahead is really pretty phenomenal. So you guys are lucky to be here, and I'm sure you guys each know that. But you guys are in good hands here. So after I left TVMSC, I graduated from Centennial High School in 2008, and I went on to Ohio State. And I'll be graduating there this spring with a degree in microbiology, a dual degree in microbiology and pharmaceutical sciences with a minor in philosophy. So I was kind of busy over there. But the only reason I can graduate with 2 majors and a minor is because I took so many AP classes. So I mean, there's a reason for why you guys are taking these AP classes, shelling out, what, like $80, $90 for the test, because that really pays off later. I went into Ohio State with, I think, 45 credits. And if you consider that 12 credits is full-time, then Ohio State's on the quarter system. So after 36 credits, you're technically a sophomore. So I went into Ohio State with sophomore standing, even though I'd never stepped foot in a college classroom before. So that kind of freed me up to do 2 different majors, as well as to do some lab work on the side. I waited too long. All right. Pardon the technical difficulty. All right. There we go. So Ohio State, as we found out earlier today, is in Columbus, Ohio. So it's a little ways from here. And Ohio State wasn't my first choice when it came to picking schools. I was initially looking at schools on the West Coast, University of Washington, maybe Stanford, places like that. So the number 1 question I usually get when I tell people at Ohio that I'm from Idaho is they ask, well, why'd you come to Ohio State? And that's a good question. But it turns out my uncle, he was a Buckeye. And I have family in Ohio. So my mom was really, she just apply. All you have to do is apply. You don't have to go, but just apply. So I mean, I applied really quick. I mean, I think I spent less time on my Ohio State application than I did my BSU application. And I don't mean to diss BSU, but I didn't spend a lot of time. But as it turns out, I got into Ohio State. They gave me a financial aid package that was more than nothing. I mean, it wasn't completely covered, but it helped. And what was really cool is they actually flew me out to take a look at the campus. And if I can give you guys some advice for when you guys are looking at colleges, really try and take the opportunity to go out there and get a feel for the campus for yourself. Because going out there and having them give their presentation, going out there, walking around the campus, kind of see how things are, it's going to tell you a lot more than you can ever learn in a brochure or on their website. So if you get the opportunity, go out to the campus and try and take a look, try and get the vibe. So I went out there, they flew me out. I stayed at my grandfather's house and I have to worry about a hotel, and we took some tours around campus. So one of the tours I went on was of the Biomedical Research Tower. And this was a $150 million building that they just finished constructing in 2006. So when I went out there in 2008, it was only 2 years old. I mean, they still had plastic on the light switches. And what it is it's a 10-story research tower that's just 10 floors of nothing but lab space. They have BSL level 3 labs on the 10th floor, and in the basement is where they grow the lab rats that they use, for poor rats, whatever they use the rats for. So I mean, what that told me was that Ohio State was seriously into research. And as a senior in high school, I knew that I wanted to get involved with research as an undergraduate in college. So, I mean, if they're dedicating $150 million to building a building for research, and Ohio State can pull in the faculty that are interested in looking into these cutting-edge projects and technologies, then they might have something for the undergraduates. Because, I mean, professors are always looking for free labor. So that kind of put me in a good spot. So, I mean, there wasn't any one single thing that drew me to Ohio State. Like I said, it was kind of just the feel I got after the tour. But I'll tell you, the research aspect was a really important factor. So I knew that if I went to Ohio State, I'd be able to get involved with research right away. So my first year there, I took a class called Biochemistry H200. So it was an honors level course, but it only met once a week, and it was just a survey course. So if you guys can remember this when you guys are in college, look for these survey courses, because it actually really helped me out. What we did in that class is they brought professors from all over the university to give presentations about the research they were doing at Ohio State. And at the end of the quarter, they wanted the students, everyone in the class, to kind of type up synopses of each of the professors' presentations, and then rank your favorite. And the ranking was so that they could place us into one of these professors' labs. So as a freshman, I was given the opportunity to join Dr. Karine Monsieur Forsyth's lab. And I picked her lab because she was doing work with HIV. And I knew that was something I was going to be interested in working on, either in college or graduate school. So, just kind of, if they're saying, hey, if you have to choose between any of these professors, which would you choose? I decided to choose her. And it turns out she liked what I wrote. She called me in for an interview. I must have said something nice because she brought me into the lab. And I joined in March of 2009. So I'd only been in college for just a couple of months when I was given my first opportunity to join a lab. And it kind of just fell into place. I hardly even had to work for it. I took this survey course, and as part of that class, they placed me in a lab. So for the rest of that year, for the rest of 2009, I was really just kind of doing what I was told. So I worked very closely with a graduate student who's helped me out immensely. And he'd tell me about the project. I'd act like I knew what he was talking about. And then he'd give me a protocol, and I'd follow it. I'd mess it up and do it again. And then he'd, so we did that for about a year. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was learning. But what was really neat about this experience was right away I was placed on a project. So I wasn't doing dishes. I wasn't preparing media or making buffers. Instead, I was actually able to get right to making mistakes. And I think what enabled me to do that was the experience I had here at TVMSC. So when I was here, I took an internship class. I'm not sure if any of you guys are in that right now. But what that let me do is that let me get my first lab experience as a high school student, which is pretty remarkable, pretty unheard of. But because I had that previous lab experience, I think that's why my PI, my principal investigator, my lab mentor, felt comfortable enough kind of putting me on a project right away. So already, just as a freshman in high school, TVMSC had already been paying off. So eventually, after 2009, I think it was at the beginning of 2010, I was put on my own project. And I guess that was, what happened was the project was my graduate student's. And then he ended up giving up on it, which in retrospect was probably a bad sign. If your graduate student doesn't think it's worth his time, it might not be worth yours. But it was an opportunity, right? So I just, I took it. I was grateful for it. And it's been really challenging, but it's actually helped me out. It's been really great. So this is my project. It's called SELEX, which is the systematic evolution of ligands through exponential enrichment. So it's a mouthful. What that actually means is, what I'm doing is I'm looking for an RNA molecule that binds to a human protein to inhibit that protein's interaction with HIV. So the fundamental principle underlying this is that single-stranded RNA has secondary structure. So we know that DNA has secondary structure. It's in the form of a helix. Well, single-stranded RNA, it also has structure, but it's not going to be as simple as a helix. It can have hairpin loops, it can have pseudonodes, it can fold in on itself. So that's going to give this RNA molecule a shape. And at the molecular level, all interactions are based on shape and charge. So if an RNA molecule has a shape, and our protein has a shape, well then we can find an RNA molecule that has just the right shape to interact with the protein. So that's the idea behind this project. So how do we go about finding the shape that's going to interact with this protein? Well, we know that there are certain sequence motifs that will give a certain structural feature, but our understanding of that's not. We can't model that on a computer quite yet. We can't think up of a desired shape. Like we can't say, oh, we want something that has a bulge here, a dip here, and maybe kind of coming out on the end here, and then put that in a computer and get the sequence that'll give you that shape. We're not that sophisticated yet. So instead what we do is we use an artificial selection procedure where we just start with, hey, let's start with 10 to the 13th different RNA molecules. So just a ridiculous amount. That's 10 million molecules. And the idea is that, hey, one of these, 1 out of 10 to the 13th, should stick to this protein. So it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but that's the idea. But we're able to do this. We're able to do this through a very interesting technique, and that's what CELEX is. CELEX is the technique. It's an artificial selection procedure.